you spend a bunch of money to go get what's seen as one of the most electric players in the National Football League when you're talking about Tyreek Hill going to the Dolphins. And the first thing that we looked at that we wanted to talk about was just kind of getting Tua off to a great start. Young quarterback, right? A little bit up and down. They want to get him going early. How do you do that? Well, RPOs. This is something that Tua's been doing from the time he was in high school. He did it at Alabama. He's been very good at it. And again, the great thing about this is it's easy completions for the quarterback. It's him coming out of the opening series or the first couple series, and he's saying, hey, I'm 7 of 8, and I really haven't done much to throw the ball deep down the field. I'm kind of taking what the defense gives me, which is what the RPOs do. I remember getting Favre with New York, and he'd always look at the openers, and every week Brett would be like, hey, Shotty, okay, these look great. I love all these plays, but where is it where I don't have to do a damn thing? Like, where is it where I get a break? As a quarterback, you don't get many breaks. You're forced to make plays, first quarter, second quarter, third quarter. And so, again, I think this is something that's going to be really good to get Tua going early. What does it do for Tyreek? It gets him touches. Any play caller is going to have a sheet that says, hey, I got to get the ball to this guy, and these are the 12 to 14 ways I'm going to do it with a premier player like Tyreek Hill. Then you're going to have maybe your B players that you're going to have a smaller list, 6 to 8, okay, and so on down the line. But they know they want to get Tyreek Hill touches. Again, this is a good way to do it. They had success. Tyreek had success in Kansas City. And then, again, what is the defensive alternative? Well, again, one of the best ways to stop RPO game is to play man-to-man. Well, when you do that, there are issues for the defense because now you're singling up an electric player that, again, if you want to play him man-to-man and you have a good cover corner, even because of the speed that he has, you're probably having to cheat the safety over the top to help. And again, that will help open up other guys as well. So we really looked at it that the RPO should be big to get Tua going, get Tyreek some touches, and then, hey, our defense is going to be willing to play man-to-man and consider singling up this electric player along with the other pieces in place. And then Peter's got some stats that just kind of shows the research that we did into it.
RPOs were one of the things where they were most successful. They took the most pass attempts, but they were also gaining almost 8 yards per attempt, which would have been good for 7th in the league. You move to Kansas City, Tyreek Hill was very successful on RPOs to the point where they used him really frequently on it, but it was almost more instrumental to watch Mecole Hardman, who became really successful when Tyreek Hill was on the field. And so, Mike, you bring up Jaylen Waddle. That's something that right away Tyreek Hill could open up on the field just in the same way he did for Mecole Hardman. Bringing in the Mike McDaniel component, it's really a lot of that yards after the catch. So San Francisco led the league last year with just over 6.5 yards after the catch per catch. And previously in their careers, Tyreek Hill's been really good after the catch. Jaylen Waddle's been really good after the catch. And so we can see whether or not they can really bring that back. And then bringing it full circle over to cover one, it's something that Tua struggled with. He only had 60% completion last year, 6.3 yards per attempt, which would have been 26th of quarterbacks. Just isn't what you're looking for, especially when you're getting a safety down in the box. Again, that's something Tyreek Hill was really, really strong at. And so he's definitely going to try and be the answer to that coverage for Mike McDaniel.
The problem of playing cover one against a guy like Tyreek, having a sidekick like Waddle on the other side, Pags, what is your sentiment with that?
We did it enough to where you have to mix in that man-to-man, just because you have to defend the RPOs. Over the last couple of years here at Denver, we did a good enough job of really mixing those different types of coverage. We weren't heavy into it like we were in Houston, in the playoff game. But you always have to be aware of where Tyreek was, how they used him. Hardman was more of the jet motion guy to where Hill was a little bit more stagnant. They would move him in motion, but there's got to be your times where you pick and choose where you're going to play man, just to be able to get that other defender close to the box for those RPOs and be able to press them and challenge them. The minute you play off, it doesn't matter in Kansas City system. And if Miami adapts this, they go RPOs, they run them both sides. It doesn't matter to the back or away from the back. They're going to see somebody uncovered or somebody off, and they're going to take advantage of that. And that's where that Kansas City offense really got going with Tyreek.
Who is the best compliment that you had opposite of ULC, and what benefits did you gain from that?
I mean, having Santana Moss on the other side, another guy that people feared with speed, just made the field feel different. I mean, there was bigger passing windows. If guys did come up and press, it was press bail. And it gave me a chance to get a lot of yards after the catch because they respected us. Because if we got any free releases, it was pitch and catch underneath, and we was able to make plays.
Chuck Pagano, you on here?
Yeah, Shotty.
Hey, Chuck, just like the bunch sets, right? Like if you're playing me a bunch of cover one, right, I'm going to want to get into bunches and stacks. And so let's say we try to get Waddle and Tyreek on the same side. Like, what are you thinking? Are you playing in and out? Are you trying to lock things? Like, what are your thoughts with that?
Yeah, so just based on what you've shown out of the bunches, was the point man going to be the first guy vertical and one coming inside and three going to the flat and making it easy? We called that like lock limbo, where we'd lock the point and then in and out on 1 and 3. But a lot of it, Shotty, and everybody else on the call, had to do with what you were showing. And people started beating that type of coverage. What they would do is release, the point up the field, and then one would stay one and number 3 would come out and trail number 1. And so what it did was, as long as one released and stayed one, the outside corner had to lock him. And so if you did, a double out, then the inside guy, the guy that was on 3, was screwed because of his leverage. And then if you went, got the point man out of the picture and released both those guys vertical and went double in, then the corner was playing outside leverage and he was screwed. So like Johnny said, you had to mix it in there, especially because you want to top all those receivers, and mix downs, the early downs, when you're going to get the RPOs and the quick, pop passes, the slants. And if you play off, there's a lot of opportunities for catch and run, for the offensive guys, especially those guys that can really run. I mean, they could take a 5-yard slant and split the defense and everybody else. And, and especially if those guys are on opposite sides. So, we had to find different ways, to play those bunches based on the release and where those guys were going. And then, when you put them together, it gave you a chance to roll the defense and roll the coverage that way, to where you could actually roll, give a two high shell and roll one to the outside third, roll the other guy to the middle third. And then, then you had to find the backside corner was going to pretty much be on his own.
So we just wanted to show you guys some video examples, right? There's some Kansas City film. This is kind of a run read option as Peter plays it, right? Again, these are going to be easy throws for Tua, simple design, simple throw. But again, you've got the special guy to go out there, make the curl flat defender there miss in space. Again, like Chuck and John are both saying, you're going to move this guy around, put him in different spots, make him find him, make him track him with motion. But again, things you'll probably see early in drives. Here's another clip. This is down in the red zone. This is a true RPO where they're big blocking the backside. They're blocking the left guard and left tackle big. He's reading the inside backer. They motion to help him get some free access to get the guy in kind of a soft mirror technique. He's able to take advantage of that. This next clip shows the defense is trying to load the box. The outside backer won't walk. It's easy. I mean, this is what Brett Favre wanted. This is what all the great ones want, especially early in games, because they're not having to do anything. I mean, they're coming up and they're saying, hey, they're giving me numbers. They're giving me leverage. Let me take that easy completion and get the game off to a good start. Where Mike McDaniels is going to do a great job. This is a design bubble off of the run game. Jacksonville doesn't send anybody out there. It's a cool build because they're building a 1x3. They're stretching the zone coverage defender. 44's out there. We've got good numbers. Again, where Tua's going to have to do is be accurate with the ball for yards after the catch. I think Mike will have a big deal to do with that. And then here's an isolated receiver. What Pags was saying, right? Again, it could be a 2-receiver side, could be a 3-receiver side, or the isolation over there. This is Tua hitting Waddle underneath. You can see it. He's reading 45, Deion Jones. Again, he steps up. He's going to try to throw it back in behind him. So certainly something that McDaniels knows Tua's comfortable with, and they've got the athletes to kind of strike people with fear a little bit with that. The question is going to be, how quickly can Tua and Tyreek get on the same page? Does he have the athleticism and the ability to process to make these guys pay? again, I think that's what they're going to have to spend some time in training camp, building off what they did in the spring to figure out how are these guys going to get on the same page.
This is describing how teams performed over the past 3 years after the quarterback got moved off his spot. This one positive bar is the Chiefs. They were the only team that was able to consistently keep their offense on schedule when the quarterback was getting moved off his spot. And a big part of that was due to Tyreek Hill. So just looking at last year, when you're talking about scramble drill, he led the league in catches, he led the league in yards, explosive plays, first downs. On average, he was targeted almost 30 yards downfield in scramble drill. He was amazing at it. The question here is going to be specifically with Tua. We're not saying he can't do it, but last year in scramble drill, he completed 40% of his passes. He threw 5 interceptions to only 1 touchdown, completing on average just under 5 yards per attempt. It's just not where it needs to be yet. And so the big question is whether Tyreek Hill can really help elevate him and put Tua's talents to good use.
LC, like, again, with the different quarterbacks you played with, how important and how do you go about getting the relationship with these guys, whether it's scrambles, signals? Just talk a little bit about how that is developed over time.
Well, I think the most important thing is allowing your coordinator to have trust in you. Once your coordinator kind of allow you guys to be on the same page after you spend a few years in the league, you and that quarterback can talk about different things. And when you start game planning throughout the week and he gives you kind of the looks you're going to get and when plays are going to break down, you can go back to your quarterback and say, listen, man, if we get this, this is what we're going to do. And we try to keep it within the realm of what we already coached to do. Again, I know we watched some film of Kansas City, and they did a little bit stuff quite a bit different than you would have allowed us to do when I was playing. But I mean, the guys are so talented and he's so fast. I think that him and his quarterback just say, you know what, buddy, if anything breaks down, just get open and I'll find you. And that just shows why they end up paying him the way they paid him.
Watch Tyreek. He's in the 2 spot down here, just inside the 50. The quarterback goes right, makes the guy miss, and Tyreek goes the exact opposite way. Like, those are things that we're not really teaching. Those are things that, again, can be problematic, right? They can be negative plays. But again, this is all about how fast they react.
Playing Kansas City, we probably, in an 8-play period, you'd have 3 to 4 where we set on the card, scramble, improvise, let him out, certain rush. We tried to even try to get the rush to where he'd have to get out just to teach these guys their ability to plaster, their ability to try to stay on top. We always tried to, as a defensive unit, tried to lock on the minute we felt the quarterback or they felt the quarterback out of the pocket, you know, from the scrambles to the RPOs. It's something that we had to put an emphasis on.
That would be as imperative to me as truly the coverage and the plaster rolls and on, is that the defensive line understands the importance. If we make them throw it on time and we don't sack them, that more times than not, you know what, we're not going to give up a big play.
Again, you watch some of the times that Tua was moved off the spot. Here he's kind of making an ill-advised decision, throwing it into traffic. This is areas where he's got to be better. But again, the emphasis has to start with Mike and the offensive staff because they do have some guys with speed. Here's a missed opportunity. He's scrambling. He overthrows it. So that's an area where he definitely needs to improve and try to get better. There's a handful of times where he slides in the pocket, but again, something I know for a fact that these guys will be working on to try to maximize that. Everybody wants to talk about the deep passing game. Does he have the strongest arm in the NFL? No, he does not. Does he have enough arm strength? Yes, he does. Is Tyreek Hill one of the fastest players in the NFL? Absolutely. So they need to figure out which deep balls Tua throws the best. He's doing a nice job on some goes, throwing it with anticipation, the inside fade, and he does a really good job on the 50-50 passes, which Peter will talk about. The running game that McDaniels is bringing from San Francisco and the creativity of it and the problem with the misdirection, the different types of jet motions and orbit motions and things like that will create, I believe, huge passing lanes off of those hard sell run actions. So I think that's going to be a really big part, how well they can run the football.
We see a quarterback in Tua who just hasn't traditionally been aggressive downfield. He's, like we were talking about, average depth of target. He's one of the lower passers in the league in terms of that, but also just percentage of deep shots. He does not throw the ball down the field a lot, and whether that's scheme, whether that's anticipation, it's tough to say, but he hasn't been throwing it down the field. When he does, though, he's been very effective. He's completed 47% of his passes that are 20 or more yards down the field, which is second in the league. And so he clearly has the ability to do so, whether that's arm strength, whether that's anticipation. The challenge is going to be with McDaniel to really see if he can activate him and get him to do that consistently, get those open receivers down the field. And so on the left side, we see his heat map. And so where is he running routes? You're looking at underneath, you're looking at outside, a lot of these bubble routes, as well as outside the numbers. And so these are some of the areas that Tua is going to have to hit Tyreek to really be able to be as effective with what they traditionally do. We can look over at the route tree. Tyreek Hill, he runs go routes, he runs out routes, some of these crossing drag routes, the hitch routes. But we're not seeing a lot of posts. We're not seeing a lot of corners. And so historically, Tua has been better with some of these receivers who are bigger. You're talking about Mike Gesicki, Devontae Parker. He's very able to throw up some of these jump balls, the 50-50 balls. And so will he be as effective with a receiver who's shorter, like Tyreek Hill? Being able to hit him down the field is really the question.
When you watch this video of Tua throwing the deep ball, you were actually kind of impressed, if I remember.
Yes, I was. I mean, great ball placement as a receiver. That's all you can ask for is a chance and not give a defender a chance. And just arm strength looked really good to me. I know a lot of people were questioning it. And when I saw these clips, they had me question, like, why are they questioning his arm strength? The talent is there. And again, there's another great ball, him down the sideline, giving his receiver a chance, and they're making a play. So he's making the plays, he's making the throws. He just has to get more consistent and be better at it.
I was a little surprised that Kansas City didn't try to keep him at least for another year. I think for Miami, they're getting a true frontline difference maker, arguably the most explosive player in the league. And if you're doing everything you can to make Tua successful, I can see that. But from a team roster standpoint, my opinion is, like, this is a team that's got to score in the high 20s on a regular basis and probably win some games where they're scoring, 30, 35 points a game. And when you have this sort of resources in your offense, you're expecting, a team to be, top 5. I think Tyreek Hill is a great player, and I don't think acquiring him was a mistake by Miami necessarily. But, one of the things that Coach Belichick always emphasized was, like, in each meeting room, your highest paid player really should try to be, like, homegrown to the extent you can. It just sends the right message. And it's always, what do you stand for as well? And within a year or two, they're going to have Jaylen Waddle saying, hey, I've been here every day. I'm reliable. And I'm not saying he's going to demand that sort of money, but every player knows what their peers make. And it's, it's very meaningful to try to get that right to the extent you can.